this release is based on goodwill, and I'm quite happy that this deal has been broken by our international partners, both the Swiss government, and the Red Cross. These are two, this is an organization and a nation that is known for equality, and they've been able to help.
Release 21 abducted Chibok girls. The Bring Back Our Girls campaign group is still talking tough and believes others in captive should be released. And then there are talks that they were swapped with prisoners. That's talk time this morning. All right, thanks for joining us this Friday morning on TVC Breakfast. I am Mike Okwoche.
And a very good morning to you, and thank God it's Friday. Yeah. I am Ngozi Alebu. Also to look forward to on the show this morning.
Just fictitious for anyone to accuse us of being violators of law or anything of that nature.
Tussle between security agencies and Shiite Muslims gets tougher as military threatens to cut down activities of the restive group. On the other hand, the group is alleging victimization. We will start with that big story on TVC Breakfast this morning.
Material we use these days have increased in price. They've increased in price. Like the sugar. The sugar we bought like maybe last year, it was like 10,000, 8,000. Now for today, it's not like 20,000.
Now the prayer, give us this day our daily bread, is more important now than ever. Nigerians lament the hike in the price of bread, and bakers are also worried that they may be out of production soon. For how long will this staple food be hard to get, and why are Nigerians paying more? Those are the questions we will ask a team of master bakers.
The TVC Breakfast discussion begins in a moment. All right, when it comes to the issue of the cost of bread, I know we've discussed rice, a lot of rice is, on the program here, but bread is another very staple food that Nigerians love.
You know, something that really underscored the importance of bread for me, when we were having our meeting yesterday, during our post-mortem, we were discussing the issue of bread, and all of that. And we forgot to discuss other issues that we were going to look at today. That's how important
bread is. All right, we'll certainly have time to discuss and then maybe have some bread on set today.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll get to see all kinds of bread, and you will take your choose.
All right. All right, let's dig into our first story now. The Islamic movement in Nigeria, popularly called the Shiites, says 13 of its members have died in Katsina, Kaduna, and Sokoto states.
Now, this was occasioned by the procession to martyrdom of their prophet Imam Hussein. Tessa Makende has the story from Kaduna.
The procession was slated to commence at 8 a.m. local time. This was against the ban on the movement and their activities by the Kaduna state government. Police had flooded the streets at dawn, forcing the Shiites to go into hiding. But the IMN members had played a fast one on the security personnel. As opposed to 8 a.m., they were on the streets earlier. Although in trepidation, they hoisted their flags and hastily did the little they could do. Tudunwada is a community densely populated by Muslim faithful in Kaduna State. It's also here that the headquarters of the IMN in the state is situated. The center doubles as residence for leader of the IMN in the state, Mukhtar Sahabi. The Shiites, displeased at the security agencies, had made moves to protest. But they met a brick wall from their Sunni counterparts, who insisted that they had no such rights. It took the intervention of security personnel to settle the rift. But afterwards, trouble continued, and the Sunni Muslims descended heavily on the Shiites.
suka nuna sun bijire ma dokar gwamnati.
Their coming out was against a directive from the government, but they wouldn't listen. Well, since they have no regard for constitutional authority, they will definitely bear the consequences.
Wanda ya ce ba ruwansa da gwamnati bai yadda da ita ba.
2 lives were lost in the process. That wasn't enough for them. They proceeded in setting ablaze and demolishing the home of Mukhtar Sahabi. This gigantic building is said to be a school in the area. It was brought down following claims that it was being built as a grooming ground for more Shiite members. These youth on the fence had gotten word that some Ironman members were in hiding in this house, and climbing was to gain entry and deal with them decisively.
The Shiites wanted to express displeasure after the police left us. We confronted them, and 2 of them were killed in the process. This happened because they were also making moves against us.
Members of the movement have been forced to silence. The Kaduna state government insists that the Islamic movement in Nigeria remains banned. Tessem Akinde, TVC News, Kaduna.
All right, now the issue of the. Okay, we have Tessem Akinde now joining us, our correspondent in Kaduna. Tessem, it's good to have you on this morning. We just listened to your report now. Can you give us a background? Because if we are those who are not in Kaduna and those who have not been following developments may not really understand who are the Shiites and what do they really want.
Well, the Shiites, they are Muslims, like they would say, although some people, especially the Sunni Muslims, believe they are not very good Muslims. That's the general perception. But they believe that perception from certain people does not hold water at all. So generally they are Muslims, but there are issues. A lot of Muslims have an issues with the way they carry out their activities. And so in Kaduna, what happened day before yesterday, it was really, there was tension in the land. The government authorities had placed a ban on their activities, but they believe it's their constitutional right to gather and, congregate, and the right to, belong to a religion and, worship as a constitutional right as far as they are concerned. And so the threat of the ban by the government as far as they are concerned does not hold water. And so they were to come out by 8 a.m. to carry out a procession. They call it Ashura. But because the government threat or ban, we had security personnel all littered around the streets of Kaduna. And so as opposed to 8 o'clock in the morning, they played a fast one on the security personnel. They came out earlier, carrying out their, procession, though in hiding and in trepidation. Some of them were really running and all of that, so the government security paraphernalia will not catch up with them. So generally, they are still in hiding, and the government has threatened to, descend heavily on them should they carry out or should they continually, make pronouncements to the fact that they are part of this, the IMN, the Islamic movement in Nigeria. Popularly, they are called the Shiites. So basically, that's like a background to what is going on here.
And Tessem, these Shiites seem to be defiant, in the face of government's ban on their procession. Of course, the state government has said it's banning this group to preserve peace and security in the state. But give us an idea, exactly how has this group, in the past been carrying on when it comes to expressing themselves, whatever the issues were? Have they really conducted themselves in a violent way that, should call for caution on the part of the government?
Well, the latest, the closest empirical, the closest empirical, the closest evidence I can give you is what happened last year, December, in Zaria. There was a scuffle between the military authorities. Of course, the chief of army staff was passing in Zaria, and then there has to be an exchange. The Shiites believe their activities are constitutional. They believe it's their right to carry out or worship the way they would want. But the government has an issue to the way they carry out their activities, especially with the fact that several times they have to flood the streets, several times they've barricaded the roads. Just the last governor we had here in Kaduna, talking about Mukhtar Abalanyero, at some point in Zaria he was stopped. He had his entourage was, he had an issue because he couldn't pass freely because the Shia members were on the road, and so he had to go down from his vehicle, trek down for a while before he could even consider him. And so generally, okay, they are constitutional, but the government has a way to which they interpret how they carry out their policy. You can't be using the road when some other Nigerian citizen who has equal rights with you, is deterred from having equal access to the road. And so this is where the problem comes. And so generally, they claim they are peace-loving, but the government thinks otherwise.
All right, Tessem, we're going to put you on hold a little. We'll certainly prepare to have you on Skype right now, but we need to give the people a background information as to all of this and how it all started. Now, let's give you some information from the preliminaries. Now, the Army Depot in Zaria was having its 73rd passing out parade of the recruits, and the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, was scheduled to review officers and special guests of honor. Now, the Chief of Army Staff's convoy was to go to Zaria from Jigawa State after he attended the Army Officers Conference.
Yes.
Now, meanwhile, youths from the Shiite group had barricaded the route to the Army Depot, which is the PZ Samaru road, if you're familiar with that area.
Of course, chaos broke out when the military officers tried to persuade the Shiite youths who were brandishing clubs and chanting Allahu Akbar, that's Allah is great, to allow them access the road. Well, all that was to no avail. Now, reports claim more than 100 Shiite sect members were killed during the fracas, and that the military returned at night and invaded Sheikh Ibrahim Zakzaki's house in the Gilesu area.
Now, the media forum of the Islamic movement released a statement that the raid on Zakzaki's house led to the death of about 1,000 Shiites, including Zakzaki's deputy, Muhammad Turi, his wife, Zinatu, and son, Ali. Now, the Shiites have since been protesting the release of their leader, Sheikh Ibrahim Zakzaki, who was arrested during the raid, and this has led to further scuffle in Kaduna State.
Now, the army said its confrontation with the Shiite sect members resulted from an assassination attempt on the Army Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai. Now, the Commission of Inquiry set up by the Kaduna State government to investigate the incident states unequivocally in its report that the Army's use of excessive force led to the heavy casualties, and that the Army should be held accountable for that gruesome outcome. All right, Tessem, we still have Tessem on, via Skype now. Tessem, what can you tell us about the findings of the Judicial Commission that has actually indicted the Army, saying the Army was actually heavy-handed, and this actually led to the heavy casualty that was recorded on the part of the Shiites?
Well, the Judicial Commission of Inquiry here, they sat. Of course, in the course of their sitting, there was an extension to their time, the time that was allocated to them to give both parties and several other parties, but majorly the IMN and the Islamic movement in Nigeria and the military, which are the key parties involved in what actually happened. Of course, there were, memoranda from other organizations, from civil society outfits and all of that, all sharing perspectives as to what happened. But generally, the results of the Commission of Inquiry presented its report. We were there. We attended proceedings, severally. The bulk of what happened was that the IMN had appeared at some point, but they had pulled out following. Excuse me. They had always demanded for access to their leader. Talking about Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaki, they wanted to see him. They wanted to get briefing from him before putting up more appearances at the, at the Commission of Inquiry to actually field it or feed it, as it were, with very good information. At some point, they were allowed to see him based on what we were told. Of course, we were not there, but some security, they were allowed to see him, led by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, and a few other, members or legal team of the judicial, the Islamic movement in Nigeria. Generally, what happened after, at some point they pulled out, they did not appear, but the military succeeded, over time. They make sure the military, they had appearances. They appeared subsequently, and we had to visit several sites. And at some point, the Judicial Commission of Inquiry had to put together its results, and they presented it before the Kaduna State government. Generally, the position of the movement, came. There were further interactions. There were further comments after the Judicial Commission of Inquiry had presented its report to the Kaduna State government from the Islamic movement of Nigeria. Of course, they were not happy. They accused the Judicial Commission of Inquiry as being tools in the hands of government. So they had issues even with the setting up, the composition, of that Commission of Inquiry. They had accused some members of being, partisan or having written badly or terribly against the Islamic movement in Nigeria. So generally, what was put together, or the findings of the commission, as far as the Islamic movement in Nigeria was or is still concerned, they don't have any. They can't work by that. That's been their position.
All right. Well, Tessem, we'll still come back to you on this. Let's give the people more information. Now, the Judicial Commission also indicted the leader of the group, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaki, for alleged acts of lawlessness by his members. Now, the panel's findings contained in the report said 348 Shiite members and a soldier were killed. Now, in a recent broadcast, Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State outlined some of the reasons why his government would not continue to tolerate the activities of the Shiites.
Now, he said they have no respect for constituted authority and that they took over major highways for days without permission. Now, the governor then banned street protests without permission and blocking of roads in the name of any gathering in the state. Now, let's take a deeper look at the Shiite sect and their history. Now, the major split in Islam is that between the majority Sunnis and the minority Shiites. After Prophet Muhammad's death, leadership of the Islamic community passed to Prophet Abu Bakr as Siddiq, one of the Prophet Muhammad's closest companions. Some people in the community felt that this succession was not legitimate and that the title of Caliph really belonged to Ali ibn Abi Talib.
Now, Ali's claim was supported by the fact that he was Prophet Muhammad's cousin, his adopted son, his first convert at the age of 9, and the husband of his daughter Fatima. But both sides believe that the Prophet specifically designated their man. Now, supporters of Abu Bakr became the Sunnis, those of Ali ibn Abi, the Shiites. The Shiite comes from the word Shia, which means the party, and that's for Ali's side. Now, there's a relatively moderate number of Shiites in northern Nigeria who are based in Kano, Kaduna, Sokoto, and Kaduna, and other Katsina and Kaduna, and other few places. Now, though both sects believe in the Quran, they have differences in religious traditions, customs, and practice.
Now, most Muslims all over the world, between 80 to 90% of them are Sunnis and the rest are Shiites. Now, Ibrahim El-Zakzaki, a Muslim cleric born in Zaria, Kaduna, has been the leader of Nigeria's Shiite group. Now, his sermons and charismatic rhetorics drew followers, which prompted the formation